It's the 2006 NCAA Highlight Show, Week 1, with your host, I am Sporticus. Alright, so Week 1 is in the books. Let's go over some games here. Arizona State took out Northern Arizona 45-17. Rudy Carpenter threw for 322 yards. Ball State beat Eastern Michigan. Joe Lynch passed for 342 yards and 2 touchdowns. Boise State laid the hurt on Sacramento State 70-3. Jared Zabransky threw for 346 yards and rushed in 8 touchdowns and rushed for 52 yards. Huge game from him. Buffalo beat Temple in a MAC contest. James Starks rushed for 80 yards and a touchdown. Central Michigan upset Boston College 27-21. Jeff Smith returned Dan Lefebvre threw for 200. He threw 4 interceptions in the game. They still won. Looks like Lefebvre scored on a 10-yard run. Then Gordy returned an interception, 47 yards for a score, and they went up 14-0. Lefebvre added another touchdown run. He rushed for 107 yards in the game and 2 touchdowns. But the big play, Smith with a 91-yard kickoff return that put Central Michigan up for good. So good game for the Chippewas. Connecticut blows out Rhode Island. Dowell Brown, 256 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. Iowa State beats Toledo 55-17. Ryan Baum had 2 touchdown returns in the special teams game for Iowa State. Minnesota takes out a MAC team, Kent State, 49-21. Amir Penix rushed for 151 yards and 4 touchdowns. Louisiana Monroe beats Elkhorn State 42-7. Northwestern falls to the Max Miami of Ohio. Why am I drawing a blank on their name? The Red Hawks, or anyways, Joe Hudson was huge on defense. He had an interception, 14 tackles. Middle Tennessee State beats Florida International 31-7. South Carolina takes out Mississippi State 48-14. Savell Newton passed for 333 yards and 5 touchdowns. New Mexico State beats Southeast Louisiana 56-6. Chase Holbrook passed for 479 yards and 6 touchdowns. A lot of big games from quarterbacks in this week 1. Oregon State drills Eastern Washington 77-17. Matt Moore threw for 276 and 6 touchdowns. UTEP beats San Diego State 41-24. Again, another big game from the quarterback. Jordan Palmer passed for 423 yards and 5 touchdowns. Tulsa upends Stephen F. Austin. Virginia Tech beats Northeastern 41-10. Fresno State beats Nevada 41-31. Alabama. Whoa. Alabama falls to Hawaii? What the heck happened there? Let's take a look at this game. Colt Brennan threw for 299, 4 touchdowns. Wilson threw for 327 yards, but no touchdowns. Wow, that's hard to believe. Big upset there. They had more passing yards, more rushing yards, and the total net yards were more, but the scoreboard shows differently. Let's look at the Hawaii scored with 2:03 left. To win it. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. Brigham Young beats Arizona 34-23. John Beck threw for 301 and 3 touchdowns. USC over Arkansas 37-27. Dwayne Jarrett had 11 catches for 113 yards and 3 touchdowns. Arkansas State beats Army 51-7. Washington State drops a tough loss to Auburn 25-3. Brandon Cox threw for 249 and a touchdown. P.J. Hill rushed for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns as Arizona blanks Bowling Green 34-0. Cincinnati beats Eastern Kentucky 51-3. Clemson drills Florida Atlantic 62-7. Will Proctor threw for 188 and a touchdown and also rushed for another score. Colorado 41-10 over Montana State. Passed for over 100 yards and a touchdown and rushed for over 100 yards and 4 touchdowns. Colorado State beats Weber State 52-14. Duke beats Richmond 33-17. Florida all over Southern Miss 49-14. Chris Leak throws for 265 and 3 touchdowns. He also added another touchdown on the ground. Georgia, Matthew Stafford throws for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns as Georgia wins 77-7 over Western Kentucky. Georgia Tech drills Notre Dame 38-7. Reggie Ball passed for 172 yards and 3 touchdowns and added 43 yards on the ground. Eastern Illinois loses to Illinois 48-21. Juice Williams threw for 203 yards and a touchdown and then rushed for 136 more yards and 2 touchdowns. Western Michigan, with a slight upset, beats Indiana 31-3 convincingly. Amir Ismail had a couple sacks, an interception, scored a touchdown. He was all over the place on defense for the Western Michigan Broncos. Iowa beats Montana 36-13. Drew Tate 245 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air. Kansas upends Northwestern State 51-24. Kerry Meyer passed for 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then added 33 yards on the ground and 2 more touchdowns. Kansas State beats Illinois State in a wild one, 48-35. Josh Freeman threw for 326 yards and a touchdown. LSU all over Louisiana Lafayette 66-0. Jamarcus Russell 5 touchdown passes in the game. Maryland beats William & Mary 37-14. Sam Hollenbach throws for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. Michigan, of course, beats Vanderbilt. Michigan State beats Idaho 37-7. Brian Hoyer throws for 259 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let's take a look at that box score real quick. Stanton came on and threw for 91 yards in mop-up play, so he looked good as well. The running game, Ringer had 61 yards and a touchdown, 9 carries. Colcrick had 10 carries for 42 yards. Not a great running attack, but enough to get the job done. Overall, 478 total yards. Michigan State defense limits the Idaho Vandals to 143 yards total. So, nice win for the Spartans. Missouri beats Murray State 66-0. Chase Daniel, 3 touchdowns, 286 yards passing. Navy drops a tough one to East Carolina, 14-13. They scored the winning touchdown, East Carolina did, in the third quarter on an 8-yard touchdown by Fred Wilson. Let's take a look at how that happened. Return to fumble. 8 yards for the score to make it 14-13, and they would hold on to win it. 14-13. Nebraska all over Louisiana Tech, 73-21. Zach Taylor passed for 367 yards and 3 touchdowns. New Mexico drops one to Portland State. Tough loss there. Rutgers loses to North Carolina 25-20. North Carolina State just ekes out a win over Appalachian State. This is the same Appalachian State would beat the Michigan Wolverines the next year. Ohio takes out Tennessee. Who is it? Tennessee Martin. Okay. 42-16. Not a great day for Ohio quarterback Bauer. Throws for 3 interceptions, but 4 touchdowns from McCray. Leads the way. Ohio State eating a shutout win over Northern Illinois. Troy Smith threw for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns, and also added 51 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Oklahoma beats Alabama Birmingham 34-3. Paul Thompson throws for 234 and 2 touchdowns, and adds another one on the ground. Oklahoma State wins big 49-0. Bobby Reed 311 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He also added another touchdown on the ground. Oregon beats Stanford 31-0. Dennis Dixon, 156 yards passing and touchdown, and also rushed for 97 yards on the score as well. Penn State beats Akron 37-14. Pittsburgh falls to Virginia. Jason Snelling rushes for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Purdue routs Indiana State 76-14. Curtis Painter, 376 yards and 5 touchdowns. Houston falls to Rice 42-28. Quentin Smith rushed for 221 yards and 3 touchdowns. South Florida wins at 48-13 over McNeese State. Tennessee beats Cal 52-28. Eric Ainge throws for 460 yards and 5 scores. Big game from him. Texas, Colt McCoy throws for 362 and 4 touchdowns as Texas beats North Texas 44-7. The Citadels blanked by Texas A&M. Stephen McGee passes for 263, a touchdown, and then rushes for 69 yards and a touchdown. Southern Methodist beats Texas Tech 35-19. Justin Willis threw for 227 yards and 3 touchdowns. Troy beats Alabama State, blanks them 73-0. Excuse me, sorry about that. Central Florida blanks Villanova 27-0. Mike Walker had a big day receiving, 10 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown. UCLA is beaten by Utah 21-13. UNLV beats Idaho State 42-7. Syracuse drops one to Wake Forest 21-13. Washington beats San Jose State by a touchdown, 24-17. West Virginia wins a wild one over Marshall, 52-35. Patrick White passed for 180 yards and rushed for 211 yards and 2 scores. Wyoming edges Utah State 21-20. Karsten Sween passed for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he scored on the winning touchdown with 48 seconds left in the game to win it for the Cowboys. TCU beats Baylor 27-7. Kentucky falls to Louisville 55-28. Brian Brom throws for 454 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mississippi 40-17 over Memphis. Big game from Brent Schaefer. Passed for 294 yards, a touchdown. Rushed for 86 and another touchdown. And then the big game of the week, Florida State is drilled by Miami 38-10. Kyle Wright threw for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let's take a look at that box score. Florida State, Weatherford, not a great day throwing. Wright was solid with the 3 scores. James had 49 yards on the ground and scored another touchdown. Neither team really ran the ball too well. But it was all Miami, 38-17. James opened the scoring, catching a 30-yard pass from Kyle Wright. This is Kyle Wright, right? I can't. This doesn't list their names, I don't think. Yeah, Kyle Wright, Javaris James. Then another touchdown. They went up 14-0. They would go up 21-0 as Leggett scores on a 26-yard touchdown strike from Kyle Wright. And they led it 21-0 in the first quarter. No, I take that back. There was no scoring in the first. Oh, wait. Miami scored in the first quarter, in the second quarter, and they scored in the third quarter to go up 21-0. And then Miami finally got on the board on a field, or Florida State finally got on the board on a field goal. Made it 21-3. But then Ponder had a 61-yard interception return for a touchdown to make it 28-3. And then from there they would roll 38-10 the final. So that's it for week 1. Let's take a look at the top 20, or actually the top 40. Georgia Tech. See, that's what I'm talking about. They got Georgia Tech, the number 1 team in the nation. Tennessee second. So not really sure how it's devised. So Chase Holbrook had the biggest game of the week as far as passing. He threw for 479 yards for New Mexico State. Rushing, Donald Brown for Connecticut ran for 256 to lead all rushers. Quentin Smith from Rutgers, and Jason Snelling from Virginia, and Patrick White from West Virginia all went over 200 yards on the ground. Interceptions. Kareem Taylor for North Carolina had 3 picks in their game. Lance Broadus had 4 sacks for Washington State, even though they lost. Ooh. Or wait. Yeah. They lost the game, but he had 4 sacks. Of course, Auburn had 9 sacks. Kick returning Richard Davis had 213 yards in kick returns, and Ryan Baum had 191 yards in punt returns. Four returns, 2 2 touchdowns. His longest a 79-yarder for Iowa State over Toledo. So there you have it. Week 1 is in the books. Week 2. See if I can find the Michigan game here. There it is right here. Central Michigan. They won their first game over Boston College. They upset Boston College, so that's not going to be an easy game for Brian Kelly's coaching them. So they're going to be looking for the upset against the Michigan Wolverines. They went 10-4 this year, so should be a tough game. Michigan State plays another directional school, Eastern Michigan. Kind of wish that they had a tab to show just the conferences. They probably, I mean, they do the standings, but I mean the scores by standing. So Big Ten. All but 2 teams in the Big Ten won their opening game. Indiana and Northwestern lose. Big 12, same thing. All but 2 teams won. Texas Tech and Baylor lost. ACC, they were a little all over the place. Nope, all but 2. Just Boston College and Florida State losing their Big East. They had 3 teams lose. Rutgers, Syracuse, and Pittsburgh. Conference USA, they had 5 teams lose. Let's check the SEC. SEC had quite a few teams drop their opening games. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Alabama. Oh, look at Alabama. Oh, they went 6-7 that year, so they weren't a really good team anyways. So, anyways, that's it for week 1. We'll see you for week 2. Thanks for watching.